Hi, welcome to English at Work in Asia, Job Applications and Job Interviews live Q&A session. Today we have with us Ms. Lauren Gilbert, yes, who's a talent solutions consultant at LinkedIn and is also an MVP, I hear.
That's correct.
Most valuable player, rock star player.
Yeah, I had a very, very successful last few months, I'd like to say. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you guys have a rock star in front of us today. Lauren is from Australia, has studied in China, and is now based in Hong Kong, which I also hear is a completely new playing field for you and keeps you on your professional toes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Happy to hear that.
I don't know if I'd be sitting here doing this in Australia.
We'll call you up if you are there.
Yeah, thank you.
Lauren works closely with education, IT, and finance sectors and their respective HR managers here in Hong Kong. She helps them use social media recruitment strategies in order to connect with talented people like you. And as we covered in the course, job applications are evolving, and that's why she's here with us today, to give you advice based on her global experience and how you can use LinkedIn to land the job that you want, whether it's in your home country or abroad. Of course, there's more to life than work, and outside of work, Lauren is interested in China, empowering gender diversity, starting with her Women at LinkedIn initiative, and an occasional nice glass of Pinot Noir after a long day. So Lauren, thank you so much for coming here with us today and for being here. More importantly, for choosing to sit here with us instead of enjoying a nice glass of Pinot Noir at this hour.
That's correct. It is right on the dot where I would perhaps be having a glass of wine on a Thursday. Well, but that aside, thank you so much for having me here today. This is a great opportunity to be able to present to the students in the course. So, as you mentioned, my name is Lauren Gilbert. I am a talent solutions consultant working at LinkedIn, and I've been working at LinkedIn for about 3.5 years now in both our Sydney and more recently in our Hong Kong office as of about just over a year ago. So in my role, I work with HR managers and recruitment professionals within organisations to be able to move their recruitment strategy towards LinkedIn and social media. So traditionally we see with recruitment, it's typically through job applicants or through recruitment agencies that individuals are getting roles. So now, because of the movement towards social media, more and more individuals are able to actually get their roles and get their job opportunities through the LinkedIn platform. So within my role, I work with these individuals or with these HR professionals to be able to take that shift and make that shift within their organisation, which can be pretty complex and pretty different to what they currently do. So that's what I'm doing today, but I've been asked as well to give a bit of background about myself. So if you haven't seen my LinkedIn profile, I'll give you a bit of a journey of what got me to where I'm sitting today. So my passion, as Bea mentioned, is really around China. So I can still recall 10 years ago when I landed in Beijing, I got off the plane with my then boyfriend and just thought, oh my goodness, there is just so much opportunity and drive within this country, and I so much want to be a part of it. So that really has driven my decisions, whether it's to do with my degree, which is around international business, majoring in Mandarin Chinese, whether it's to do with where I entered with the companies that I was working for there as well. So I went back to university, studied at Sydney University, those courses, and then in my final year had the great opportunity to actually go back to Beijing and study there for a year Mandarin at Peking University. So then I came out of university, and as many of you, I understand, are graduates or about to be graduates from your courses, and it's kind of a scary time because you don't really have a clear direction as to where you can go, and there's some people that know exactly what they want to get into, and I can tell you right now I was definitely not one of those people, so I was really quite concerned, but I knew that I love China and I love business. Therefore, that's what I studied, what type of companies that I could get into that's going to allow me to continue that within my career. So I ended up getting a job through doing numerous job applications with IBM, with their graduate program. And I chose that organisation again because they have a presence in China. They're very international, and it was a great opportunity for me to try out different parts of the business through their graduate program. So my first 6 months, it was rotational. My first 6 months, I was in the project management team. I very quickly realised I was never going to be a project manager, and my boyfriend insisted I must definitely finish off some of the courses that I was doing around project management, and I actually just said, I cannot be bothered. I don't want to be certified as a PM. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's not me. My second 6 months of the program, I went into marketing, and I started to get this sense that, marketing is a lot more creative. I was getting more exposure to clients, and also I started to understand the value of sales. And the value of sales, particularly for technology, in driving organisations. So it was through that exposure I actually fell into my sales role for the second half of my duration at IBM. And I still recall, actually, in preparation for today, I had to really delve up some memories to think about, the interviews and the recruitment processes that I went through. I still recall, just as I was entering that IBM graduate program, that the recruiter said to me, you should be in sales. I was like, there is no way I'm going to be a car salesperson. There is no way. So she was right, and I'm still doing that today. But I had to go through that process to kind of figure out what I want to do. And again, this may not be something that I do for the rest of my career either. So there is that opportunity to transition. So thinking about, I was in IBM for 2 years, and then people started to leave and go to Google and these kind of cool young companies, and I thought, okay, well, IBM's been great, I've gotten some great training, etc., but now I'm ready to, get out of the fold and start to explore something new. So knowing that I liked sales and IT, and I've still got this passion about China, I thought, okay, what's a company that's more young, that's growing more quickly? And I went onto a website, and this is a tip for yourselves on the session today. I went onto a website called Glassdoor. Now, Glassdoor is like it's a website that kind of gives feedback and reviews by employees or previous employees about working at certain companies. So I quickly found out that a great company to work for was an organisation called Salesforce, and in particular for salespeople, of course. So I entered into Salesforce. I was there for about only 8 or 9 months. And I was, to be honest, pretty unhappy because I just wasn't getting the same, challenge that I was getting out of my role at IBM. So, they always say the grass is greener on the other side. It kind of was that experience for me. Not that there's anything wrong with Salesforce, of course, but just the role that I was doing. So interestingly, my movement to my next role, which was LinkedIn, was very different. So my dad had always said to me, you need to spend at least 2 years within each of your organisations. You need to do your time. Employers do not like seeing people that jump around, and particularly you've only done 2.5 years of work experience, so you need to stay there. And I really had that within my mind. So anyway, being a sales professional in Salesforce, I needed to make sure that I had a great LinkedIn profile, because the main motivation was that clients or potential clients were clicking on my profile. When I was sending them messages, I was calling them. So because of that, I had a wealth of information on there that was geared towards the fact that clients were looking at me. And with that information, one day I received an email or a message to my LinkedIn profile from a man by the name of Kunal Malhotra, and he is the internal recruiter at LinkedIn. So thinking, I wasn't actively looking for a job because Dad had said to me I can't do that, but I was open to new job opportunities. And Kunal was able to find me because of what was on my LinkedIn profile, and he was looking for an exact type of person of my background. He said, look, Lauren, I saw your profile, gave me a whole lot of flattery, which I was like, oh my gosh, this is so nice. LinkedIn's doing these amazing things. We've got a role for an account executive. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing, because if I was to stay in Salesforce, it was going to take me 2 years to get to this position. So I was like, amazing. He said, would love to have a conversation with you. And I was like, in a heartbeat, yep, love to speak with you further. So he opened up that door that I didn't even know that existed. And since then moved to LinkedIn, and I found out more about the job opportunity, found out what I was going to sell, and then I found out what I was going to sell was actually what he had used to recruit me. So that was incredibly powerful, and I was like convinced, because I could see that this was really working, and it was in a way that I didn't even know recruiters and HR professionals were utilising. So fast forward 2.5 years later, I said I need to go to China. I've done my time. I've got all this experience. It may not be perfect, but I really want to get to China, and knew that we had an office here in Hong Kong. And through a lot of persistence and perseverance, it was not easy, even though it was internally within the company, I was able to land this opportunity. And what I love about my role today is that a lot of people, especially in Hong Kong and China, aren't aware of this as much as they are within Australia, where we really were educating HR professionals to the point where it became the norm. Now that's what I'm doing here in Hong Kong today. So that's my background.
Okay, thank you. We're going to take a short pause. About that clicking, we fixed it now. So welcome back, and thank you so much, Lauren, for the sharing. I hope that will help you think of more follow-up questions to ask along the way. But we're going to go ahead and start with the questions that we already have received from you guys on the edX platform. So I'm going to go ahead and kickstart this with the LinkedIn question. So how is LinkedIn used in the job application process by users? And how is LinkedIn used by HR these days?
Cool. Okay. So from users, if they're pretty savvy and they understand, like myself now, that if I have a formulated profile with keywords and my experience and all of that, then it's going to be very easy for recruiters to find me. That's not the main intention, but it's good to know what job opportunities are out there if you're not necessarily openly looking for them, because I don't have the time to do that. But for somebody who maybe is not so aware of that, the typical ways that you'd be using LinkedIn as a job seeker is firstly around the jobs. So there are actually jobs listed on LinkedIn. And jobs on LinkedIn are very different to typical job boards in the way that they actually match with the LinkedIn profile that's most relevant. So say for an example, a communications manager in Australia with maybe 1 to 2 years of experience will see similar types of positions when they log onto LinkedIn. In the same capacity, that individual can actually log into the job section and seek out job opportunities there. The powerful thing further about jobs is you can actually see who's posted the job. So the poster will actually include their LinkedIn profile and open up the opportunity for you to actually message that person directly. So again, another touch point and another way for you to be able to, be ahead of the game. Other ways that applicants use LinkedIn is to research the company. So research the company, and that might be about, the type of culture, what's the business offerings, what's the latest news, because companies are using that to provide status updates around their news. Who works there, employees that are attached to the company page. You can see maybe people that you have a second degree connection, and what that means is that you know somebody in common. So you could actually use that person that you have in common to be able to say, hey, can you get me an introduction to this person? I'd love to hear a little bit more about the organisation. And then finally, around groups. So groups can be set up for common interests, and more often than not, those groups are around job opportunities again. So for an individual, they might be interested, they're sitting in Spain at the moment, might be interested in finding out about job opportunities in Hong Kong. There are actually groups that are created that facilitate that interaction between the job applicants and the job opportunities itself. So it's kind of like a community. So that's on the job applicant front. So on HR are becoming increasingly aware of the fact that people are going onto LinkedIn, whether active or what we call passive. So passive is open to job opportunities but not necessarily looking for them. So knowing this level of behaviour, they're trying to match their job opportunities with those LinkedIn members, or with those most relevant LinkedIn members. So again, the ways that they can go about doing that is through advertising those jobs, knowing that those most relevant jobs are going to go connect with the most relevant candidates. And again, this is coming down to whether your LinkedIn profile has been written up as well. So you really need to make sure that you have all that information on there to ensure that those most relevant jobs are going to be connecting with you. Similarly, I know I talk a little bit about this term passive candidates. So passive candidates, again, those people that aren't necessarily seeking out roles, but they happen to find a job opportunity that matches to them, or they get a message about a job, they're going to start to research the company. So what HR professionals are now doing is they're working very closely with marketing to be able to develop what's called a careers page and their employment brand. So things like, their culture, employee testimonials, videos, essentially information as to say, come and work for us because we're looking for really good people that are like you, that might not be looking but are open to it. So finally, and the one that many people are not aware of, I gave the example of Kanal. Kanal was actually to find me, he was using a tool that gives him full access to everybody in the world on LinkedIn. So he's not in any way restricted by people he's connected with, because we have those degrees of connection that we restrict who we can see. He can see everyone in the world, and he can seek out, I know I gave the example of communication manager with 1 to 2 years of experience in Sydney, because in fact my friend also got a job in that way. And so she had on her LinkedIn profile, she was seeking new job opportunities, and that HR professional had gone in and looked for somebody of her background, and then they also included the phrase seeking new job opportunities. And when she updated her profile, they knew straight away using the tools, and they were able to go straight to her. So it's very, very clever. That's what they're doing in the background.
So you can get a job within a day of updating your profile?
Potentially. I hope so. Well, you're in a better situation if you have a LinkedIn profile, is what I'll say.
Okay. So I'm now going to move on to the second question. Would anything on a LinkedIn profile be considered as red flags amongst employers?
There certainly is. The more so related to LinkedIn, and I'll talk about not related to, I'll give two examples. The first is LinkedIn is a professional network. Okay, so everything that is on your LinkedIn profile, any interaction, any activity that you are doing on LinkedIn absolutely needs to be professionally related. So don't have a LinkedIn photo with your cat. Don't post photos about what you had for dinner. That is very much Facebook or Weibo or whatever social media that you're using to interact with your friends. This is always going to be professionally related. So that's a big no-no, and it's it's perceived in a negative way. The second, maybe less so much to do with LinkedIn, is around tenure. What's called tenure. So if you are, and this is going to be evident on your CV as well, so that's why I'm saying it's not just about LinkedIn. But if you have that you've jumped around to multiple different employers within a short period of time, it does not reflect well, because HR managers, recruiters want to see, or even hiring managers, so the people that you would be working for, want to see that you have a commitment to that organisation. The best way that you can display that commitment and that success within that company is to be able to stay within the organisation for a longer period of time, unless, of course, you have a reason behind why you moved. And maybe, at least for Salesforce, I've got that example. I got tapped on the shoulder. What can I do? I was like, I have to go.
Couldn't say no.
Yeah.
This is actually a question that was asked by Kathy Lee, and I believe Kathy Lee is from Hong Kong. She says that if she's moving around, or maybe not her in particular, but if a candidate has experience in different organizations and positions, that would give a negative impression to a new potential employer, that she has no focus, or one would have no focus.
Yeah, I mean, there's no harm in trying different things out, particularly as you're early on in your career, and even, later on in your career where you decide to make that career change. And as you've had that longer experience within that same type of role, it actually becomes more difficult to jump out, because it's like somebody will get a CV and it's completely unrelated to the role that they're trying to go for. So, it's not perceived as a bad thing. It shows that you're figuring out what you want to do, and that you have a more broad, not an in-depth experience within a certain area, but you've got a more broader perspective of different types of the business. So in fact, it could actually work in your favor as well.
As long as you have a reason to explain why you may have moved from one job to another. Another one that's kind of opposite from red flags, what are good flags to raise? So Asmang asked what document to upload to the LinkedIn profile to give a bit more.
Yeah, certainly. So LinkedIn, as of about a year or two ago, we acquired a company that's called SlideShare. And so on SlideShare, you can, as, what was the name, sorry? As referred to in the question, is you can upload documents, and you can upload videos, and you can upload, PDFs, pictures, etc., onto your LinkedIn profile, and actually put them underneath the job that you worked in when you did that piece of work, or even, the university that you were studying at when you did that piece of work, or the project, for example, there too. So to answer the question, what are the type of documents, I would we suggest put up the documents that you're most proud of and that are best representing of what you did within that role. So an example might be we are sitting in an absolutely amazing, right now, in this absolutely amazingly designed, architecturally designed building. So the individual that works for the architecture firm that designed this, a great example is to actually take a photo of this, upload it to their LinkedIn profile, and they've got visual evidence of the work that they're working on. So again, as long as it's related to what you do and what the role's about, then there's no harm in uploading some of those documents there too.
We've encouraged students in the course to upload self-introduction videos, and I wonder if that's something that would be useful to upload to a LinkedIn profile, like just to do a self-introduction video of themselves. Yeah. Is that common? Do people do that?
People do that, absolutely, and I would say that not enough people do it. Just think about how you can differentiate yourself, and that is absolutely an example in how to do that. So, in fact, as you were explaining that, it made me recall within LinkedIn, we have like what's called a support team who's helping us to be able to set up meetings or find potential new clients that we can work with in terms of like to move their recruitment strategy onto LinkedIn. And a really innovative way that one of the girls came up with was to do a video. And so she sent a video out in an email to what we call these prospects or potential clients saying, this is what we do, this is what we're all about, would love to have a conversation. And the response rates were so high compared to just a typical email. So in the same capacity, she was doing something different. And so doing something different, providing that self-introduction and giving a warmer feel to your LinkedIn profile, I think it's fantastic.
I hope you guys are taking notes. I'll move on to the next question. Okay, so we have students from all over the world and across many different fields in the course, as I mentioned to you. Mm-hmm. So how do LinkedIn profiles change across industries, and do you actually see any differences across the industries?
Yeah, so, and I guess this kind of refers to the architect example there. So the biggest difference is what we see is around what's being uploaded, particularly with those more visuals. So the example with an architecture firm, they're going to upload, say, a building. The work, perhaps, of a professor might actually be a publication that they upload there, and they can also include within the publication of their LinkedIn, publication section of their LinkedIn profile, some of the dissertations or the theses that they're working on. So again, for many of you who are still in university, start to consider putting some of those publications or thesis or extra work that you're doing, those projects that you're proud of, because that's the type of information that we could be putting onto a LinkedIn profile that's over and above.
Have you seen something outstanding or something a bit unique that somebody has put
on a LinkedIn profile? There's let me just think. We partner with an individual based in Singapore who helps around developing LinkedIn profiles and how you can best utilize LinkedIn. So he has, again, like a wealth of videos, a wealth of slides, and just, again, that visual backup for him to be able to really articulate the value of LinkedIn. So that would be my best example. It's not that wild, but I did come across that LinkedIn profile. I was like, wow, that's really solid, and it reflects really well on them.
So I view it kind of like a one-stop shop where once somebody Googles you, maybe you've given them what your experience, what you've done, and also visuals and documentation to show for.
Yeah.
So it's even better than a Google search.
Yeah, it is. So think about a LinkedIn profile is really an opportunity for you to tell your story, a story about yourself as a professional. And what you put up on there is kind of up to you, but however you feel comfortable in displaying it. So, and I'll talk a little bit about actually, the summary section of LinkedIn. So, a LinkedIn profile. So right at the top there is a summary where you can just encapsulate, as much information or kind of like as much in depth about who you are and who you aspire to be. So feel free to have a look at my LinkedIn profile, because it's a little bit, my summary is a little bit out there, and it's kind of like, it talks about my sales and professional experience, but it also talks about my aspirations and my passions even outside of work as well. So again, thinking a LinkedIn profile is not just, you as an individual or a student. We can start to think about where your passions lie, and also be able to utilize that as a way to connect more deeply with people that have similar passions.
That's a lead into a new question that's popped up. I believe it's also from Asmeng. My circle is limited only to my career and job, which I want to change. How do I change my circle and find new connections in a new field?
Okay, so I'll relate this question more so back to our experience of moving to Hong Kong. So when I moved to Hong Kong, I knew absolutely nobody except for my colleagues. So it's pretty daunting. At least Hong Kong is very open and there's a lot of people that are willing to make new friends. And so I had that very limited set of people in the same capacity as the question asked here. You're kind of stuck within that network of who you know. So the way to get out there, I would say it's very beneficial to do the offline networking. So think about the job or the industry that you want to get in and the associations that are connected with that job or industry. So the example that I have here within Hong Kong is, again, it can be interest related as well, is the Women's Foundation. So the Women's Foundation host a number of events, and I was able to find out about them. I was searching, okay, there must be some women in business stuff because I was doing something like that in Australia. This is a great way to meet new people. So I found that, and then can now attend some of their events and as an offshoot network and expand to be able to meet new people there too. So associations are the best way. Also think about, if we're focusing in mainly just around your career and your job, certainly there would be people that you would know from university or from high school, or those are still connections that you can absolutely leverage. Your alumni connections, so think about those people and how you can benefit from having that connection with them too.
Okay, hope that answered your question, Asmeng. I'm gonna now go to Keen, who is Hong Kong Chinese, but currently living in Australia. Keen wants to know how a candidate could increase their competitiveness when applying for a job overseas. So I suppose you're an Australia expert, so yeah. I'll go ahead and let you answer that.
So I'm not an expert in the visa situation within Australia or anywhere around the world, but I will speak a little bit to that. So, the best thing that you can do is think about the skills that are lacking within the country and how the skills that you have or the skills that you don't have but you can gain are going to be able to allow you to land that job that is in very high demand, but the supply is very low. So specifically Keen within Australia, my suggestion is to go onto the Government of Australia website, and it does provide a list of those professions or those skill sets that are in high demand. So that aside, that's more on the technical side of things that I'm, again, no expert on. But networking is the number one way, I believe, to be able to land a job, particularly in a new country. So networking, again, can be offline in the same capacity as, signing up with associations or attending events or being part of industry groups that are aligned with where you want to be. It might also be online as well. So searching out for people, that are in organisations that you want to work for or in jobs that particularly are of interest to you, and just be frank with them. This is my situation. I'd love to have a conversation with somebody of your background just to gain some knowledge or some expertise or some mentorship in order to be able to stay within the country and land a job like this. So those are my biggest recommendations: is understand what the skills are lacking, and if that works or if that doesn't work, still emphasize on that networking both offline and online.
Do you actually receive messages from people asking, like, hey, how do I work in Hong Kong? I see you, but you're working in Hong Kong?
Yeah, so I don't personally, but you reminded me of my boyfriend. So my boyfriend is from Denmark. In fact, we met in China, which is all very confusing, have been in Australia, Hong Kong, so very international, and I don't know how it happened, but it did. But the Danish community is very tight. Very, very, very tight. But I think there's only like 4 million people that live in Denmark or something. So very frequently when he was living in Australia, he would get Danes writing to him saying, I'd love to just gain some knowledge. You're living there, you're a Danish citizen. what kind of tips could you provide? So that's another suggestion, reach out to those individuals that are of the same nationality as yourself, because you have that instant connection there too.
Okay. I have a question that's again from Kathy Lee. How much of a profile is searchable if actively seeking an opportunity is in the body? Can recruiters automatically search for it?
Yeah, Kathy, everything that's on a LinkedIn profile is searchable. So I'll give you the example with Kate. So my friend Kate, the communications manager that got that interview literally within a day, she updated on her LinkedIn profile, actively seeking opportunities or something along those lines. So what, I can't remember the name of the company, I probably shouldn't say it, but anyway, what they did is using this tool, they were actually able to save the search criteria that allowed them to receive that alert when somebody updated their profile. So they'd have a communication manager with 1 to 2 years of experience based in Sydney with the phrase actively looking for a job. As soon as you update your profile, you'll be in an alert and a search result, and they can message you. So yes.
Go for it, Kathy.
Yeah, do it, definitely.
Put actively seeking an opportunity in your LinkedIn profile now, but go ahead and go through the course materials first.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got to have a LinkedIn profile to back it up beforehand.
Okay. Another question is NC from Hong Kong, who is also looking to change career paths at the moment, by the way, says that employers in some fields, and maybe in her field, such as education, might prefer applicants to apply for job openings in a more traditional way. And for applicants from more traditional fields, such as education, or maybe HR, do you think a LinkedIn profile or having an online presence is really necessary for them?
So it is, you're doing, my opinion is, and in speaking with HR recruiters, you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't have a LinkedIn profile. So is it necessary? Maybe not, but you're doing yourself a disservice because it's becoming more and more apparent that recruiters and HR, etc., are using, are searching and looking for your LinkedIn profile. That said as well, when they search for and see your profile on Google, which they will do because they do go and search you out on social media, if they search for you and you do have a LinkedIn profile, your LinkedIn profile is going to be in one of the top 4 or 5 search results. It might even be number 3 sometimes. Okay, so if they find that and they click on that, you have the capability or the power to be able to determine what they see. So it's having that level of control, which is really, really, really powerful. On the education front, so interestingly, in fact, Bea and I were talking just earlier. So on the education front in Hong Kong, I am specifically working with the universities HR departments to educate them on the value of LinkedIn and how they can use it for their recruitment. So we are very much seeing a shift here in Hong Kong within the education industry. So it's not everyone who's using it, absolutely. We're going through that education for universities, but it's shifting that way. So if you're ahead of the game, you're definitely helping yourself out for that reason.
And NC, Lauren is the one driving that shift in education.
Oh,
so get your LinkedIn profile up. Okay. How can fresh graduates create an impactful LinkedIn profile, or how can they showcase their leadership and creativity?
So, good question. So I just think when even though I graduated, it wasn't that many years ago, I had no idea what I was doing with LinkedIn profiles. But I think back in those days, people just weren't really, they weren't using them to the same extent as what they are today. LinkedIn is absolutely as valuable to a graduate as what it is a full professional, an experienced professional rather. And so the ways that graduates can go about really building out their LinkedIn profile, a few different tips that we can think about. And I guess it's similar to, your CV and resume. I know for a lot of graduates, they're trying to fill it out with stuff and demonstrate I've got these leadership skills and blah, blah, blah. So we're trying to do the same thing for a LinkedIn profile. So ideas. Part-time work. Is there any part-time work? No matter how, embarrassing, if it's a McDonald's, you were working at the service, serving burgers or whatever, that is an example of the fact that you had a job, you understand how a corporation works, and you've got that level of commitment in order to earn money and be a professional in some sense. So part-time roles. Volunteer work. Think about projects that you've worked on within university. And on LinkedIn, I really love that you can actually, because I work on a lot of projects with the women at LinkedIn, some of the education projects as well. If I add a project to my LinkedIn profile, I can also tag the other colleagues that I've worked on that project with, and I can list them as project team members directly under my LinkedIn profile. So it's got that interaction there as well. And then finally, thinking about, awards. Think about awards that you've won at school or at university. When you land into, I don't know, this is my experience, but when you land into the corporate world, I definitely don't receive as many awards as I used to back in the day, and I'm very upset about it because we just don't do that so much. So definitely, are you proud of a certain result that you received on a test? Put that on your LinkedIn profile. It's incredibly valuable. And then finally, just around fresh graduates, make sure that you've got this resume, but be active on LinkedIn. So think about, things that you're passionate about and you want to write about. You can actually write blog posts on LinkedIn. So maybe experiences or learnings that you had from university or travels that you had, but again, painting that picture of you as an individual. So making sure that you're active there on top of it too.
Okay. I'm laughing because I don't know whether it was Adam or somebody asked, will B have a LinkedIn profile? I do have a LinkedIn profile, but it's probably not searchable.
I found you on LinkedIn.
Yes. Or it's very old. It was during my university days, and I haven't updated it in years.
Well, hopefully this inspires it.
Yes. But again, I'm in education, so we're a bit outdated.
Yeah, getting there.
Let's see. Kathy Lee asks, thanks so much for being active, Kathy. We say CV should be about 2 pages.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a max length for LinkedIn profiles?
There's not a max length, but think about for on a website. Like if you start to scroll down, you scroll, and you just get lost in it, then I would say it's too long. So there's not necessarily a max length. There's not necessarily a really too short length. But think about, it's kind of like thinking about the user experience. They go onto your LinkedIn profile. We want to make it easy for them to see that information, for them to see it right at the beginning, what the type of person that you are, all that vital information at the top, and then start to fill it out towards the bottom. The other thing that I'll note on that as well is, as you start to list your experience or work experience, and maybe this is for the more experienced individuals on the call, is for each of those jobs that you did, try and keep the information that you put within that role the same size. So it's just got that consistency. So it's kind of like a resume. You do 1 paragraph, 1 or 2 paragraphs, do the same for each of those ones further down your experience, because these are the ones that you did many years ago. It's still valid. It's still maybe some information and some skill sets that are going to allow you to land that job a lot easier.
Are there certain things you do to your CV in order to turn it into a LinkedIn profile? So what kind of changes exactly do you recommend? So
Yeah.
hard copy CV.
Yeah.
What does Kathy and B need to do to change it to a LinkedIn profile?
So a CV is very formal, and I'm not the expert in this, but it's about your responsibilities and your achievements across each of that experience. So it's really, a CV has been designed for HR managers to make a quick determination, are you the right type of person? And it doesn't really bring, in my opinion, to the forefront who you are as an individual. So LinkedIn is far more informal. It's still a professional website, remember, so we don't want to be talking about things that are completely irrelevant, but at the same token, we also want to paint a picture of yourself. So bring to the forefront your passions, speak in the first person, that's another thing. Make sure that you have a photo. You get 7 times more views to your LinkedIn profile if you have a photo. So that's really, really, really vital. So again, we're painting that picture of you as an individual, a professional individual, but also somebody who's a little bit approachable too, rather than the black and white CV resume that can be quite sterile.
Okay. Next question. Now that you've lived and worked in numerous countries and now thriving in Hong Kong, how does the work culture differ in Australia, China, and Hong Kong?
Mm-hmm.
And do you think it has any effect on job applications, job interviews, job duties?
Yeah. So I had to think a little bit about this. So the biggest difference that I'm still grappling with is the long hours. So in Australia, 5 o'clock comes around, people leave. On Friday at 3 p.m., and we're not lazy, but we're just cramming everything in as quickly as possible. We don't necessarily take lunch breaks that often, so we eat at the desk and then we go. We'll go for a drink with our colleagues, etc. So still social. 3 p.m. on Friday comes around, I am ready to leave. In Hong Kong, people work until like 7 or 8 p.m. on a Friday. And I just cannot get my head around that still, even a year later. So I've told my boss, in fact, who is Australian, but I think he's in this Hong Kong way of working, or the China way of working, that I can't do it. I just can't do it. It doesn't mean I'm not doing my work, but like it's output for me. I will do my work and reprimand me if I'm not doing my work, but you'll see the results. So that's the biggest thing. It's very traditional as well in many ways. So what I'm going to be very interested to see is where the business card goes now that there's LinkedIn here in Hong Kong, China, and across many Asian countries, in fact. When I first arrived here, I remember getting this email from our reception who organises the business card. She's like, you have to get your business card. I'm like, why? Like in Australia, we just don't use business cards. I'll connect with you on LinkedIn, or you've got my email address. It's fine. So I have to get your business card, and I got them in finally. And like having had a few meetings where it was really awkward because I didn't have a business card, it was a really, really awful experience. So. And that still continues like a year on. I mean, it hasn't been that long, but it still continues today. So it's a very traditional to hand across the business card with two hands and receive it as well with two hands. And so that is a very, very, very entrenched tradition that I'm now used to, definitely used to. I make sure that I have my business cards. I even have them tonight, just in case. So where that'll head with, where that tradition will be with LinkedIn, I don't know. I'm really interested to see what happens with that. So thinking about that more, those entrenched traditions, job applications and job interviews, job duties, I still feel within Hong Kong and China are very traditional, and so it is required that you submit a CV. I'll give an example. One of my now ex-colleagues from Singapore got a new job by receiving that email, as I did in Australia, from a startup. They had the interview, face-to-face interview, and that received the job. They didn't even hand in their CV. So it's a really interesting transition. So we're not there in Hong Kong, we're not there in China. It's still very traditional within those means in terms of the job application and the recruitment process. Doesn't mean LinkedIn profile.
Yes. LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, we have Ahmed Raza, a mechanical engineering major from Mehran University of Engineering and Technology in Pakistan, as well as Kathy, as well as Naval K.
Mm-hmm.
They all want to know how important are referees that you put down? Do companies really contact your referees? If so, when do they actually contact them in the application process? And do you know what they may ask?
Yeah, so referees are incredibly important because it is an opportunity for an employer to verify what you're saying on your CV is correct and what's on your LinkedIn profile is correct. And I'll talk about how LinkedIn profiles and referrals work in a moment. So very, very, very important. So do they really contact you? Yes, they do really contact your referees. And the type of questions that they'll ask is typically revolved around the relationship that they have with you. The experience that they've had with you, whether working with you or whether you were classmates as well. Remembering you don't necessarily have to have a work-related referee there either. So they want to understand that relationship and what the experience was of that, and then asking those questions again around the CV. So they might ask, even about certain dates. Can you, not specific, did they leave on March 2015, but can give me an idea of the time frame that they were working with your organisation, or do you know how long that they were working there? So that's the type of questions that they'll ask. So think when you are putting down a referee, maybe 2 or 3 referees, think about the type of people that have a strong enough relationship with you and a good relationship enough with you to be able to vet for you, because that's what they're doing, but also to be able to provide evidence of the fact that they had that working or, that relationship with you as an individual. And also, actually as a tip, I would send my CV and my LinkedIn profile across to that referee. So they've got something to reference as well. It makes it easier you want to make their job as easy as possible, because you're actually, maybe inconveniencing them. Another referee, that I think about is maybe your professors or lecturers. So again, thinking about outside the box for those graduates if you don't have somebody who you've worked with or a manager that you've got from previous work experience. They would typically contact your referees at the end. So you would have gone through the interview, they're like, oh, okay, this person looks good, they've ticked all these boxes, but do we know that this person is actually who they say they are? So it'll be one of the last steps that they'll go through in the recruitment process. So on the LinkedIn side, so that's on your referrals on the CV. On the LinkedIn side, there's actually 2 ways that we can use the online version of your CV to be able to refer that you're actually who you say you are. So the first is through what's called endorsements. Now, endorsements are like a short way to be able to say that that individual actually does have those skill sets. So I'll give you an example. If I was to click on B's profile, I get a little pop-up which says, does B, is she good at public speaking? And I'll say yes. I know because I've had that experience, or being in front of a camera, certainly. I can also type in other skill sets that aren't automatically suggested to me. So I might say very good at marketing, or some of those other skill sets that aren't actually right there presented. So again, a really shortcut way for me to say what B has on her profile is actually what she says is true. The second way, and more of a long form way, and this is again also you might think about individuals that you might request this from, is through referrals. So referrals are very similar to the referees on your LinkedIn profile, and it's an opportunity for somebody to write, say, like a paragraph about what their experience was working with you or interacting with you, and hopefully how pleasurable it was as well. So that person will provide that referral on your LinkedIn profile, and so it sits towards the bottom where they have their face there and they say which role that they're currently doing, and then all that information about what it was like working with you as well. So more of a long form way, and again, maybe perceived, not an inconvenience, I can't think of the right word, but you don't want to put that person out. It would be like, hey, would you mind just popping on a referral onto my LinkedIn profile? And in fact, in exchange, I'd be happy to do the same for you. So that's the way you can do it on LinkedIn.
So, a question from Adam, it's a follow-up question. Are referrals contacted in general? Because you can also have access to referrals on LinkedIn, or would they read your LinkedIn profile first and see the referrals and then contact your CV referrals, or?
Sometimes
do you know how that works?
Yeah, I do. So sometimes they do. So again, there's always questions, and maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more in detail, but there's always questions around, what's a fake LinkedIn profile, and, people putting on their profile stuff that's incorrect. Your profile is constantly what we call peer reviewed. So other people are clicking on it, and if you've got something extreme, like I'm the CEO of LinkedIn, like what are people going to think, So it's that, embarrassment to yourself that is frankly a lie, or frankly like a white lie. So with referrals, again, you want that to be truthful, and you want to feel comfortable with the possibility, not to say that everyone does it, but with the possibility of somebody actually going and saying, hey, you wrote this about that individual, is it in fact true? So, but it should be true, so you shouldn't be in any dire situation.
Okay, hope that answered your question, Adam. We have Orlando, a Java programmer from Mexico, wants to know LinkedIn skepticals. How do you know if it's an honest profile? And he said thank you in advance.
No, that's good. Thank you, Orlando. And Orlando, on that, Java programmers are in very high demand across the world. So programmers, developers, there is such a shortage of skills. So again, if you can update your LinkedIn profile, make sure that all that information, those skill sets are on there, recruiters will be looking for you. So I wish that I had learnt coding and all those skills, but I didn't. So again, thinking about the two things that I mentioned before around endorsements, so skills, where I say, yep, B has that skill set that she has on a LinkedIn profile, so the short form way. And then the second around referrals, again, because you're thinking about, I'm only going to put referrals on there that are in fact true, because there is that risk that somebody's going to go and call this individual up. And then the final way is we actually have a trust and safety team in India as well as in the US. And their job is to funnel out those fake LinkedIn profiles, as well as to ensure that nothing bad is going on the LinkedIn network. So, I will say they haven't gotten rid of all of them. There are always going to be fake LinkedIn profiles. There are always going to be fake Facebook profiles, all of that, because you can't keep up. But we're doing our utmost to make sure that we can get rid of that noise.
So Orlando, put in your LinkedIn profile Java programmer and available, or
Yeah.
what was it? Available, seeking an opportunity.
Seeking new job opportunities.
All right. We have Abnu from Sudan, who's had experience setting tons and tons of job applications without a single interview invite. And Abnu, you're not the only one, I'm sure. Do you have any tips on how to increase the chances of getting an interview?
Yeah. So I actually, in preparation for this, give you a bit of context, I actually asked my boyfriend this question, because we moved to Hong Kong because I got a job and he did not have a job. So it was a very difficult process for him. He did manage to get a job, and the advice that he gave me, just from his personal experience, was to hone in on and be selective. Rather than applying for a whole lot of different roles, go for the ones that you think that you're qualified for, so you're not wasting other people's time or your own time. So focus in on those and do your research and really figure out a strategy as to how you can get that job. So examples might be, okay, I'm going to go for, in fact, you might even think about certain companies. So I want to work at, I'm only going to give big names, but like Microsoft, IBM, and Telstra, which is an Australian company. So I only want to work for these companies, and I want to do this type of role. Okay, so what am I going to do? Who do I know within those companies? Can I get a referral? Referrals are the number one source of quality candidates. That's what HR professionals say. So over and above LinkedIn, they want referrals. So who do you know, or who do you have in common with somebody who works there that can help you get that job? And in a lot of organizations, there's actually a referral bonus for that individual who brings you into the business. So if you get hired, they say, hey, come and hire Abnu. I refer him. I think that he would be great for our organization. If you get hired, they get a little bonus there as well. So again, think about those strategies, hone in on certain job opportunities or companies or industries that you specifically want to go for, rather than applying for multiple different roles. That's my biggest advice on that front.
Okay. I hope Lauren answered your question, Abnu. Let's see. This one is more about job interviews. Mm-hmm. So Billy from Hong Kong says that many fresh graduates only include their name, degree, extracurricular activities in their self-introduction. How should fresh graduates promote themselves and standing impression when giving self-introductions? So if we think about what you've listed there, Billy, so name, degree, extracurricular activities, that's all very like evidence of what you do today. What recruiters or HR professionals, or even professional individuals, they want to know what you're aspiring towards and what your passions are. So having that drive and that, I love doing this, and connecting on that extra level with that individual, because you're being very transparent with who you are as an individual. Again, making sure that it's in line. You don't want to go telling them about things that you're not particularly proud of, but talking more about the things that you're passionate about and where you're aspiring to go, and even more so on the career front where you want to work as well. So it just adds that extra flavour, as opposed to just providing those more factual based introductions. So not sounding so scripted,
Yeah,
I suppose.
maybe.
So I guess for job interviews in general, do you have any advice or strategies that you use? Because I think job interviews is easy to dream or imagine yourself doing, but when you're actually there, it's a bit different. So
Yeah.
do you have any advice on the strategies that you use during interviews?
Yeah. So aside of the fact with researching, the company, making sure you know inside and out what the organization does, who the CEO is, are they making money, that kind of stuff. Like, you want to know that. You want to look like you're informed. Researching your interviewer, and again, the most likely place that you will go is LinkedIn. And also, I know that sometimes when you're going for an interview, you might not actually know who the interviewer is. It is your absolute right to ask who will be in the room so that you are best prepared for that interview. So make sure that you ask that question, and then you again go and check them out. If they're on LinkedIn, if you've got something in common with them that they have on their LinkedIn profile, make it known. So I interview people relatively regularly within LinkedIn to come and work within our organisation. If they've had a look at my LinkedIn profile and they can connect with me on a personal level, I'm very impressed, because they've gone over and above what is the typical to do. So again, on my LinkedIn profile, I love travel. I travel to some very random countries, which is my absolute passion, and luckily it's the same for my boyfriend, so we can do it together. But if somebody came in and said, oh, that's what I love doing, or how can you do that, or something that connects with me, it gets me excited, and in fact we have that personal connection. The second I would definitely install is to relax and take a deep breath, because again, it's coming back to that personal connection. You might tick all the boxes in terms of experience, you might even be a really good cultural fit, but if you can't have that personal connection with the individual, it makes it so much more difficult for them to want to bring you back for interview. And I know that it's really hard. It's like, we all know that we need to get a good night's sleep. I can't fall asleep. I'm stressing out about it. And then, it tumbles. So it's easier said than done, but just take a deep breath and relax. And at the end of the day, if you do a really bad job, it's okay. It's only an interview. There's plenty more.
Get up and try again.
Yeah, persevere.
All right, Kathy Lee again asks, how much time does a recruiter spend on a LinkedIn profile? So for CVs, in the course, most of the industry professionals said about 30 seconds for a CV. How about a LinkedIn profile?
It would typically be about the same, but what we will see is that there'll be an interaction. So that interaction might be that they click on, so for example, if you've uploaded visuals to your LinkedIn profile, they'll click on the visuals. Or if there's somebody that's endorsed you, so with those skill sets, their little name's going to be against the side, they might click on that individual as well. So it's about the same length of time, but there's that added level of interaction that recruiters are taking when they look at your LinkedIn profile that they wouldn't be able to do on a CV, of course, as well.
I think you can probably spend 5 minutes to 10 minutes just kind of browsing a LinkedIn profile.
I know. Who they know, and then it's just very social, very interactive.
And
so
then you forgot that you're looking at the candidate.
Yeah, you're not working anymore.
So, so if you want more visual time, I suppose, put lots on your LinkedIn profile so that it opens up more curiosity for the recruiter. Okay, last question. What do you wish people knew about LinkedIn? And maybe you can use this time to expel any misconceptions or just raise more awareness in general for people.
Certainly. So the biggest thing that I wish people knew was that if you are on LinkedIn, you're not looking for a job. Like, people aren't just going and setting up a LinkedIn profile to get a job, okay? Certainly it's going to help you for many of the reasons that we've listed today, but that's not the only value add. So other things that you can gain from LinkedIn is being able to connect with people. So have a online opportunity to be able to keep in touch with people and understand where they're leaving, or if you know that individual within that company. So again, it does even help on the work front or job opportunity front as well. So that connection is the first thing. The second is gaining knowledge. So gaining knowledge, whether it's to follow certain companies and find out what they're doing, following influencers. So people such as Richard Branson is posting blog posts about his business expertise. I mean, that's incredibly valuable stuff. So you can follow him and receive those posts when he delivers them straight through to your news feed. You might be part of groups, you might learn from others who are posting status updates that you're in fact connected with. So that's the second biggest thing. The third is about your LinkedIn profile. Your LinkedIn profile is an opportunity for you to have an online representation of yourself. And this is a professional representation of yourself, and you're really creating an image or a story about you. And so not having that LinkedIn profile, again, it may not be completely necessary for all industries. It absolutely is within IT and finance, biggest industries that LinkedIn is. But you're doing yourself a disservice to not have that level of control over your own personal professional profile online. Finally, as a result of that, people will find you, and you might even get a job that you weren't looking for or that you were actively looking for, but it makes it easier for the recruiter to find you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you.
I think that's all we have time for today. I'm a minute over.
Sorry.
Oh, no, it's many questions coming in. I'd just like to thank you all for joining us for this fruitful live session today with Lauren Gilbert of LinkedIn. I'm sorry if we didn't get to your question. Please feel free to repost and continue the discussion on the forums. Regardless if your question was answered or not, I still hope Lauren was able to give you a wealth of information and factors to consider when creating your LinkedIn profile. I know I learned a great deal, and I will apply it immediately. And more importantly, I hope that you see the benefits of LinkedIn, especially the long-term benefits, and a better understanding on how employers work with your profile behind the scenes. And if you're eager to take your CV and turn it into a LinkedIn profile, engage with our LinkedIn videos and materials, and these can be found in week 4 of English at Work in Asia job applications, which, by the way, you can now access. And we also browse through the LinkedIn blogs in order to get materials for English at Work in Asia job applications LinkedIn week. So it's good stuff out there, and if anything, you probably can access it starting tomorrow. Okay, so I also want you to remember that English at Work in Asia job interviews is also available now. So sign up if you haven't already. And last but definitely not least, Lauren, thank you for the generosity of your precious time on a Thursday evening.
Thank you. No, it's a pleasure to be here. And I'll just also, because I don't know if I'll get the opportunity to say it, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. I hope that I can answer if there's a lot of questions. I hope that I can answer the questions, but connect with me, and I'm happy. I regularly share on LinkedIn, and there might be some really valuable information that I send across. So feel free to do that. Don't have any hesitation.
And don't email her and ask her to look at your CVs, please.
Oh, good.
We did get a question, and I think you can learn from her in another way. But yes, we are truly grateful for the inside scoop of LinkedIn profiles and your sharing of such insightful examples and stories. I know you students have a great deal to reflect on and to discuss in the coming weeks on the forums. So we look forward to seeing you on the forums. And from the English at Work in Asian team, you can't see them, but they're behind the scenes here. Good day, good evening, and good night to you wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining us. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.